Yeah.
This is the name of the redevelopment area. Crossroads is helping fund portions of this with a grant, and we're also funding a University Avenue mobility study. And that came out of a sidewalks need report for University Avenue, which kind of evolved in this mobility study. So we've kind of got a little bit of a carryover of the two, which is positive because we've got a lot of traffic data for all of University Avenue that we can give them, that because they're just kind of concentrating on this one area. But that's what they're talking about, is we've got those two, they're going to work together, you know, to exchange information just for this portion.
That was my only concern, that these things are working together and that we're not spending money to tear up a street and the other
No, that's not, yeah.
spend money to modify
right, we kind of said we're not going to do new sidewalks here because we know this is kind of in flux.
Got it.
It's like 68th Street, and they're looking at short-term improvements, and you know, we've been in coordination, and Miguel has got some of the data and he's using that, so we're going to combine sort of their short-term recommendations and also you look at our long-term planning to determine what we want to include and what will ultimately change for this area in relation to that.
So I'm getting a little bit confused about I want to make sure like some comments they're documented. I'm not sure.
I think we invited 20 people to attend, property owners, community leaders, and then we open it up to these workshops, the community at large, to take ideas and suggestions. We go back to the working group to sift through that. We'll have another workshop, and then we actually open it up to a 2.5-day community charrette as well. And the working group is through this process. We have set up with them 6 meetings, and they're kind of like a steering committee that also works with the city representatives to guide the process along.
So if we want to be suggesting, you know, just ideas and just informing that discussion, this meeting and then the next community meeting with this,
correct.
And then the still the charrette.
There's another community meeting and then another 2.5-day charrette.
New skills and maybe even economic opportunities all came up during our portion of the walking audit, so that's something that has been discussed. I'm glad you brought it up, and again, all the input that's been brought forward will be something that we'll have in the back of our minds. So, thanks.
Just want to say about the input we got from the community with the working group, the lists we had of opportunities we got already put together by.
Oh, right. I don't remember.
And it's really good to have objective, measurable information. Too often these projects can go off the rails, and I'm not suggesting that's happening in this community, but I've worked in plenty of communities where people will say, I've lived here for 40 years, therefore it matters more what I say than someone who's lived here 6 months. And the reality of communities is always more complex than who's able to participate in city council meetings. So we really want to be very clear about making sure that we're talking that everybody is included. And so I try and use a data-driven approach to looking at the community.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
My back window on this triangle, I've done it for many years now. When we're done with this 10 years from now, what I do not want to see is rows of new businesses along that street. What I don't want to see is the business community have coming in and claimed all the space for new business. We have enough blighted business that they should go in and reclaim already. Yep. I think this is a one-time opportunity to become a unique landmark piece in the middle of our community. And so anything that I'm going to comment on in the future is going to be how much does this create a landmark space that's unique to our community, not new business, not new cookie cutter industrial. That said, I think one of the limiters is that large commercial building right in the middle of the triangle, because we talk about the space as if it's a whole 33 acres, but it's not. It's really 14 acres and a strip along the Chollas Street. Until that is resolved with the business that's right in the middle of this unique space, which is really one business owner who might be holding us back from doing something really grand on a really grand scale, we should be honest with ourselves that what we're talking about is simply redeveloping the Chollas Road, because we're not going to be able to push in north past the business owner without a second sort of tier, a second sort of effort. So I also want us to be cognizant of the reality that we're not going to have a massive central park here. It's going to be what we can do right now is that strip along the bottom. And those would be my two comments.
Yeah, well put, and we know there's obvious restraints here we're a community plan within the city, and there's private property there too. Right. And we are very aware of what is within our control, out of our control, but also that we are also empowered to make suggestions for the vision right. too, and that's part of that process.
And agreed to be part of our working group. So
no, I understand, but the reality is we can redevelop city land much quicker than we can. So it's going to be sort of a two-phase project.
Just also one quick thought on the economics of it, which is this process does something else too, which is that it creates incentives for private owners to reinvest and maybe unlock some value. So the process itself, well, it doesn't carry money, creates both information and changes to the regulatory environment potentially that will trigger reinvestment by property owners. So, but it will be in phases. There's no question about it. It happens in phases.
Yeah, I just want to chime in on that, Chris, that the gentleman that owns the Kmart and all that property is participating.
Right.
He came to the working group, and I'm not going to predict exactly where it's going to go, but he was very open to wide-ranging thinking about the property and what the long-term value could be. I think it's fair to say that he understands that the building that he's got there is probably not the best long-term use of that site.
Okay.
So again, not saying what he's going to think as time goes on as we come up with ideas, but he's certainly not trying to stand in the way.
He's
size of our entire study area, just within a half a mile from the